the lines in just one moment. But I'll tell you about a word about why we're in this race. My wife Apurva and I are doing this together because this is about the life of our country. And our Republican Party, we have grown lazy. I don't just mean lazy in the get out the vote operation sense of lazy. I mean lazy in a deeper sense of defining who we are and what we even stand for as a country. The left is good at this. They'll give you a vision of race, gender, sexuality, climate. And we're sitting here criticizing that left-wing vision, but without offering an alternative vision of our own. What do we stand for? What does it mean to be a Republican in the year 2024? What does it mean to be an American in the year 2024? And to me, it means we believe in the ideals of 1776. Ideals like merit and the pursuit of excellence, that you get ahead in this country not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character. So I've said I'll end affirmative action for everybody in this country, end the race-based quota systems. It means we believe in free speech, open debate, self-governance, the rule of law. But if there's two basic ideas that this campaign is founded on, and this country was founded on, it's this. Number one is we the people create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. Not the shadow government in D.C. that's running the show today. So if there's one thing I get done as your next president, one war that I pledge to you that I will wage, it is the war on our own shadow government, the permanent state here at home. More than anybody else, if you want a president who's actually going to shut down that deep state, not just reform it and some window dressing around the edges, but actually get in there and shut it down, then vote for the candidate who's actually speaking the truth to you. On day one in office, I will fire 75% of all federal bureaucrats. That is how you drain the swamp. For government agencies that have lost their way, the FBI, the ATF, the CDC, the U.S. Department of Education, we're not just going to reform them around the edges. We're going to get in there and shut it down. That's how you revive the integrity of our constitutional republic. When you have a president who can't work for the people for more than 8 years, there's an 8-year term limit for me as your next president, which is a good thing. None of those federal bureaucrats reporting into me should be working for the federal government for more than 8 years either. We will apply 8-year term limits to the bureaucracy instead of civil service protections. The thing about me is I'm not a politician, I'm a businessman. And I think it's going to take a businessman, a CEO in the White House, to get this done. I'm not going to start with last year's budget as the baseline, which is based on the year before's budget, which is based on the year before's budget before that. No. I will start with zero as our baseline and ask what's actually necessary, zero-based budgeting. That's how you drain the swamp. That's how you actually fight this $34 trillion national debt crisis that we're in. So that's the first basic idea of this candidacy, the first basic idea that this country was founded on, the first basic idea that I'll bring to Washington, D.C. again. The people who we elect to run the government should be the ones who actually run the government. And number two is this. The moral duty that they owe is to the citizens of this nation, not any other one. That's what it means to put America first. I'm not going to fork over $200 billion of our own taxpayer money to Ukraine so some kleptocrat can buy a bigger house. No, we're not doing that. I'm going to actually use our own military to defend our own homeland, our own borders, our own southern border, and our own northern border, too. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America. I will end birthright citizenship for the kids of illegals in this country. It should not apply to them, and I'm the only Republican to tell you that I'll end it with a strong constitutional basis to do it. We'll stop using our taxpayer money to fund federal sanctuary cities that have breaking the rule of law widely. And I'm the only Republican candidate to tell you this. Anybody who's in this country illegally will be returned to their country of origin, period. And we can use the combination of ICE and local law enforcement to actually do it. These aren't black ideas or white ideas. These aren't even Democrat ideas or Republican ideas. These are basic American ideals that we the people create a government that's accountable to us, and the people who we elect to run the government should run the government, and that they owe a moral duty to the citizens of this nation, not any other one. The fact that that's controversial, the fact that the mainstream media tells you that my ideas are dangerous or that this vision is radical for the future of our country, tells you how far we've declined. But we don't have to be this nation in decline anymore. We've been taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways that we are the same as Americans, bound by that common set of ideals. And here's how we're going to get it back. It's going to be by all of us, not just me. It's going to be by all of us starting to speak the truth in the open again. Say in public what you will say in private at the dinner table. Say it with a spine. Say it with conviction. Say it with respect. But part of respect is that you respect your neighbor enough to tell him what you actually think. And you see, that's what this campaign is all about. Speaking the truth, not just when it's easy, but when it's hard. Speaking the truth, not just to the Democrats on the other side, but to our own side, right here in this Republican Party, right here at home. I'm the only candidate in this race who can tell you that we will end vaccine liability, vaccine manufacturers having special liability exemptions. That's wrong, and we're going to put an end to it. I'm the only candidate who can tell you that I'm against the CO2 pipeline and its use of eminent domain across half the state. Not a single other presidential candidate can tell you that they're opposed to the use of eminent domain to seize the land of innocent farmers for a CO2 pipeline that's being built in the state in the name of a global climate change agenda that absolutely is a hoax, because it has nothing to do with the climate. I'm the only person in this race who can tell you that I will pardon every peaceful January 6th protester, because it's the right thing to do for this country. And I want you to understand, why am I the only candidate who's able to say these things to you? It's because our politics has become corrupt. Every politician anymore is dancing to the tune of their biggest donor. And in my case, that biggest donor is me. I don't report to them. I report to you, the citizens of this country. I'd rather speak the truth and lose this election than to win by playing some fake game of political snakes and ladders. But let me tell you something. I think that's going to be the winning strategy, and that's not up to me. That's up to you. The people of this state. Iowa goes first for a reason. Every one of your voices and votes tomorrow night at that Iowa caucus, it's like the equivalent of 1 million people. That's why I'm asking you to come out and do the right thing for our country. I'm asking for your vote. And if you all do your part, I promise you, my wife and I, my family and I, we will do ours to make sure, not in some fake politician way, but in a true way, to make sure that our country's best days are still actually ahead of us. To make sure we will continue to speak those truths without apology, that God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family isn't a bad word. It's the greatest form of governance known to mankind. Capitalism isn't a bad word. It's the best system we have to lift us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. In the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest and greatest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is the truth. We fight for the truth. We stand up for the truth. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what reunited us after the Civil War. That is what won us 2 world wars and the Cold War. That is what still gives hope to the free world. And if we can revive that dream over group identity and victimhood and grievance, then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a corporation, not a virus, not China, is going to defeat us. That is what American exceptionalism is all about. And that is what we will revive to save this great country. So yes, we are asking you to come out, brave the cold tomorrow night. It's going to be cold. That's the truth. But I'm asking you to do the right thing for our country anyway. George Washington crossed the Delaware in tougher conditions than we have faced in a long time in this country. And so for those of you who are able to do it, if you're able to come out safely to the Iowa caucus, I'm asking for your vote tomorrow night. And we are going to get this country back, and we will not stop until we get this job done. And the last thing I'm going to say is that, you know what? You have a choice to face tomorrow. I'm going to speak a hard truth that is a bitter and tough pill to swallow, but it is the truth. A lot of people got upset with me over the last day because I said it. but it is the truth. And that's why I'm going to say it to you. A lot of supporters of the Republican Party, people like me who have supported Donald Trump, some of them didn't like that I said this at first, but then they opened their eyes and they saw that it's actually the truth. So I'm going to say it to you, and I'm going to trust you with it, and I'm going to ask you to do the right thing. It relates to the choice you have to make tomorrow night. I think there's two America First candidates in this race. That's Donald Trump and myself. And it's a race between two America First patriots, both of whom love this country. I respect the heck out of Donald Trump. I have stood against these persecutions, these prosecutions, these unjust actions taken against him at every step because it's the right thing to do for this country. Earlier this week, I submitted an amicus brief to the U.S. Supreme Court to make the best possible legal arguments for why they need to overturn Colorado's disastrous decision. I've done everything in my power, standing with him and against these prosecutions and these ballot removals at every step. But now we have a choice to make, and we have to open our eyes, people. If you think they are going to let Donald J. Trump get anywhere near that White House again, I am asking you as a fellow patriot and citizen to open your eyes. These people, they will stop at nothing, and at this point, I mean nothing, to keep Donald J. Trump away from that White House. He got this fight started, and we love him for it, but now it is our job to finish it. We cannot fall for the trap they have laid for us, and here's the trap. Here's the plot, how it works. They want to narrow this down to a two-horse race between Donald Trump and a puppet who they can control. They then want to eliminate Trump from contention and trot their puppet into the White House. That is the game that they are playing. We cannot fall for that trick. You've got the future of America First right here. That's why I'm in this race. That's why I'm asking you for your vote. They are selling us the rope today that they will use to hang us tomorrow. So yes, I am here to do my part for this country, to do my part for this movement, to take America First to our future. America First did not start in 2016. It started in 1776, and we owe it to our founding fathers, and we owe it to this country to do the right thing for this country, to make sure our movement does not end when they end Trump. We owe it to our future, to our kids, to their generation, and 250 years ahead of us to do the right thing for our nation. And that's why I'm asking you tomorrow night, even if it's different than what you were thinking a couple nights ago, even if it was different than what you were thinking 3 months ago, I'm asking you to skate to where the puck is going. Do not fall for that trick. I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking every America First patriot in this state to vote for me, to take our movement to the future, to save America, to save Trump, to save this country, to save our future. I'm asking for your vote. And I think that's what it's going to take if we open our eyes and really skate to where the puck is going. People got upset for me saying this, but let's just speak the truth. Do you think we're going to look back a year from now? Say exactly what I said happened is going to happen. Last time it was a man-made pandemic and a rigged election. This time they're going to stop at nothing. So next January, a year from now, are we going to look back when I told you what's going to happen? They're going to narrow this down to a two-horse race, eliminate Trump one way or another, and then trot their puppet into the White House. Do we want to get to a year from now and look back and say, oh, we should have seen that coming? Or are we going to say that we were shocked? Of course we're not shocked. This is the plan hiding in plain sight. But it's up to us to now step up and do something about it, not to be duped by this system. That is why I am asking for your vote, and every America First conservative and every patriot and every constitutionalist conservative in this state to vote for me tomorrow night at the Iowa caucus, January 15th. And if you do your part, I'm going to do mine. That's why we've had a late wave of support from the likes of Congressman Steve King, who has wrongly been tarred by the media, but one of the best representatives you've ever had in Congress coming out of the state. Steve King, everybody expected him to endorse Trump. He's endorsed me. That's why Steve Holt, one of the strongest constitutional conservatives you have in this state, switched his endorsement late in the cycle from Ron DeSantis to me in the recent days. Sandy Salmon has come out in recent days and endorsed me. Jeff Shipley has endorsed me. Representative Eddie Andrews has endorsed me. These are some of the strongest constitutional conservatives you have in this state of Iowa. Everybody expected many of those people to go in the direction of Donald Trump. Steve King, who was America First before it was cool to be America First, who said we needed to build a border wall before the media tarred him as a racist and wrongfully called him a white supremacist. You know what? I'm proud to have his endorsement and the endorsement of countless patriots like him. Candace Owens, who many expected to endorse President Trump, was right here campaigning with me and Steve King in this state days ago in eastern Iowa, where we saw many of you in Davenport and other parts of this state. Many of those America First patriots are at the late hour, at this very end, in these last couple of days before the caucus, coming over and doing the right thing because it's the right thing for our country. So yes, I will honor Donald Trump and honor our legacy of the people who have come before us better than anybody else in this race will. But tomorrow night at the Iowa caucus on January 15th, I'm asking you to take 30 minutes of your time to save this country. And if you do your part, Apurva and I, we will do ours to make sure our kids grow up in a country where they still get ahead with their own hard work, with their own commitment, their own dedication, and where we will tell them that they are free to speak their minds at every step of the way. That is the American dream. That is what we are running to. And with your help, tomorrow night at the Iowa caucus, starting at 6:45 or earlier, get there for 7 o'clock. That is how we will revive this great nation. Thank you all for dialing in. Press *3 to ask me a question. And if you liked what I've been telling you, press 1 right now. Just hit 1 and tell me you're going to caucus for me. That's going to carry us across the finish line. And we will not stop until we get this job done. Thank you all.
Vivek, and to ask Vivek a question right now, just hit *3 on your phone, *3. A whole lot more truth bombs are being dropped, so please stay with us in this live Tele-Townhall. We're going to the phones right now, and our first caller is Randall. Randall, you are on live with Vivek Ramaswamy. Randall, please ask Vivek your question.
Oh, hello, Vivek.
Hey, Randall.
To set the record straight, I'm caucusing for you. But in my conversations and persuading others to your enlightened view, the question came up is, how is your view on the IRS and a flat tax?
Yes. Well, look, I'm the only candidate who's offered a clear vision and a clear plan here. I want to shut down the IRS. I don't think we need an IRS. I think it just needs to be a small revenue collection back office at the U.S. Treasury. And what I'd like to get to is a 12% flat tax across the board. Capital gain, ordinary income, and corporate across the board. I want to keep the estate tax at 0, where it's been until the first 11 million. And today, after that 11 million, you're taxed at 40%. I want to make that a flat 12% as well. So 12% flat tax across the board. That's what I favor. And then eliminate a lot of the corporate welfare and lobbying. That's part of what we need in this country is we have to simplify this tax code. $750 billion of our own taxpayer money is being used effectively for tax compliance costs. That's senseless. Give that money back to the people. Simplify the tax code. It should be one piece of paper, 12% flat tax. That's how you actually grow this economy. That's how you actually have a fair system. And that's how you have the basis for eliminating this politicized IRS, as I will, and I'm the only candidate who has pledged to do it. So hopefully that answers your question. Grateful for the great question. I'm also the president who is going to bring economic growth, not just through flattening the flat tax, but also through drilling, fracking, burning coal, embracing nuclear energy. Stop using our taxpayer money to pay people more money to stay at home instead of to go to work. That too adds to our national debt and shrinks our economy. How are we going to pay for government if it's only a 12% flat tax? Well, much of this is actually a government that needs to be smaller, that we don't actually need more money to actually pay for it. So I've said that we will fire 75% of those federal bureaucrats. In my first day in office, we'll get that started. We're going to shut down government agencies that should no longer exist. We're going to bring zero-based budgeting to Washington, D.C. I'm a CEO, and that's how I've run my businesses. That's how I'm going to run the federal government. That's how we're going to fight our national debt crisis. Let's get the oil and natural gas out from underneath our ground and sell it to buy down that national debt. So I'm going to be the president who, yes, fights our national debt, yes, who grows our economy, and yes, has a government that's small enough that we can grow our economy even more by lowering tax rates to a 12% flat tax across the board. That's how we're going to do this. Next question.
Thank you very much, Vivek. Again, hit the number 1 caucus for Vivek and hit *3 right now to ask Vivek a question. Next on the live line is John. John, you are on live with Vivek Ramaswamy. John, please ask Vivek your question.
Hello, Vivek. I think the biggest question that I hear from everybody that I talk to in regards to your campaign, I think you may have already answered in the previous question, but I'll go ahead and ask it again just to confirm. Everyone in rural Iowa, not everyone, but a lot of people are farmers. They come from family-owned farms. They want to be able to keep that property and keep that small business in the family and pass it on so that it continues to prosper. So could you explain again just clearly what your feeling is towards inheritance, specifically of small business and small farms, and the taxation that goes towards that?
Yes. And do me a favor and please spread this message clearly across the board, because this has been confusion purposefully perpetuated by super PACs that have wrongfully spread really false facts about this. And so let me just give it to you directly. 0 is the answer. 0. And that's why I actually have said that we need to preserve that exemption. Right now in the law, it's $11 million per person that as a family farm owner or as a small business owner to be able to pass on. I want to keep that at 0 and keep that maximum intact all the way through, not just 2026 where it goes through now, but make that permanent. Right now, today, above that, the number is a 40-some% tax that you then pay. I want to lower that to 12% even for above that 11 million. So 0% until that first 11 million. And that's exactly what it is right now in the law. That's designed to expire in 2026. I want to make that permanent so that every farmer and every landowner is able to actually have their rights respected. And one thing I want to share with other landowners and farmers across this state is the reality that they're violating your private property rights. The truth is that they're violating your private property rights with this carbon capture pipeline that they're using to seize your constitutional rights to your private property using eminent domain to command and seize the land of innocent farmers to build this CO2 pipeline. I am the only candidate who stands against this because I stand with landowners. Without private property rights, we're not a country. And so I appreciate the question and I appreciate the chance to address it. And the fact that that question came up twice tells me that the other campaigns, I think, are perhaps wrongfully, and they've been doing it the whole time. They're super PACs spreading, I think, a false myth that they know plants the wrong seed in the minds of Iowa farmers. I'll just give you another one, actually even volunteer it, that they've been trying to spread about me. But I'll address it directly, and you can share it with your farmer friends, especially livestock farmers, is that, yes, it is true. It is the truth that I am a vegetarian. I don't eat meat electively. But I believe in freedom for every American to make their own choice. And so, yes, one of the other campaigns was tweeting yesterday, trying to actually get farmers out of voting for me by saying that he's a vegetarian, he's not one of us. I believe in freedom in this country. That's the beauty of the United States of America. Each of us is free to make our own choices without asking anybody for permission or for forgiveness. And so what we need is a U.S. president who stands for the Constitution and actually keeps it. The First Amendment, including, most importantly, the right to speak your mind freely, including, and most importantly, the right to practice your own religion freely without any government standing in your way. We have not protected religious liberties enough in this country. And so you guys who have participated in the Iowa caucus, you're familiar with this. It's a classic game, and I'm a businessman. In many ways, I'm new to this, but I've learned quickly how this game is played. And I'm asking people to stand for the truth. And I've said this since the beginning, and I've kept this pledge through the campaign. I'd rather speak the truth and lose an election than to win by playing some political snakes and ladders. Many of the positions I've adopted were not popular at the time I adopted them. They did not poll well. At the time that I said I would end the war in Ukraine, you know what? That was a very unpopular position in the Republican Party. But over time, that position has aged well. Earlier on in this campaign, when I came to this state, I gave a speech where I unveiled a policy for the revival of civic duty in this country. What I said was, every high school senior who graduates from high school should have to pass the same civics test that every immigrant has to pass in order to become a voting citizen of this country. That did not poll well. That wasn't popular. It generated controversy, even amongst Republicans. But it has now become, certainly in the state of Iowa, that much more popular. So I'm not afraid to speak my true convictions to you. But when it comes to this question about my tax policy, it does bother me that I see the other candidates who are threatened by my late rise here beginning to their super PACs spread wrongful information to mislead our voters. I favor a 12% flat tax for ordinary income, capital gain, and corporate taxes. For inheritance, keep it at zero to the first $11 million, zero. And above that, instead of making it 40%, make that 12% too. That's my policy. That's what I stand for. That's how we protect our landowners. And how you know I mean it is I'm the only candidate to also protect landowners in a different way against the use of eminent domain to build carbon capture pipelines or anything else across your backyard that you don't want there. I'm the candidate who's standing for it. So thank you for that question. And I appreciate the opportunity to actually speak the truth. And I'll ask you to spread that message as far and wide amongst the farmers as you can.
Well, it's interesting, Vivek, that you mentioned the carbon pipeline because Charles wanted me to ask his question. Charles had the question of, what is your specific position on building a carbon pipeline in Iowa and why?
Sure, and I'll address that. I am the only candidate in this race who is standing up against that carbon capture pipeline, and that's why I was proud to earn the endorsement of Steve King. Steve King is one of the best congressmen you've had. Is probably leading the charge along with a few others like Steve Holt and others who have also endorsed me. Steve King was widely expected to endorse Donald Trump, but he didn't. In fact, Donald Trump just yesterday was publicly endorsed by Bruce Rastetter, who is the chief proprietor of the carbon capture pipeline that's pushing eminent domain down the throats of farmers across this state. And so it's interesting at how dirty and disappointing our politics has become. Almost everybody, it seems, is bought and paid for, but I'm in this with my own money. $30 million nearly of my own hard-earned money that we put into this campaign because I don't want to report to those super PAC puppet masters. So my position is this. The use of federal taxpayer money to subsidize a carbon capture pipeline is wrong. It's bad policy. It's crony capitalism. It is corrupt. And I would put an end to those subsidies. But I also believe even worse, even if you're building that pipeline, you should not use eminent domain to seize the land of innocent landowners' rights or easements across their land to build that pipeline across their land. That's wrong. If you want to do it, that farmer gets to name the price they actually want you to pay before it affects their crop yields, before it actually affects even the way they live their life. One of these carbon capture pipelines in Mississippi ruptured, sending people to a hospital. Many people in a small town went to a hospital in Mississippi. We don't want that happening here in Iowa. And many people are saying no to the pipeline. And yet your own state and the federal subsidies to go into it, which were signed into law by every president of the 21st century, Bush, Obama, Trump, and Biden have all signed those subsidies into law. They've been lobbied by special interests who want that pipeline built. I'm opposed to it. I'm the only candidate who stands against that CO2 pipeline. And so that's why if you want somebody who's going to speak truth to power, I'm asking you to vote for the candidate who speaks the truth to you. And it tells you a lot that, the very candidates who were propped up by multi-billionaires to get endorsements from those multi-billionaires who are pushing this carbon capture pipeline tells you who's really captured and who's not. And that's not me in this race. And so I'm in this to speak the hard truth. That's what we're doing at every step of the way. I respect Donald Trump, who came before me, and he got the America First movement to the next level. But now it's time to actually unshackle ourselves and take it to the next level from here. And if we're really America First conservatives, truly America First, we're opposed to these toxic policies like CO2 pipelines that are using eminent domain to seize the land of these innocent farmers. It's wrong. I'm against it. And a vote for really any other candidate in this race, and I really want to make this clear, a vote for any other candidate in this race, for Ron DeSantis, for Donald Trump, for Nikki Haley, is a vote for that pipeline. All of them favor eminent domain for that pipeline. One of them has even, as of yesterday, been endorsed by Bruce Rastetter, who's leading the way on this. Not me. I am standing for what the people of this country and the people of this state know to be true. The climate change agenda is a hoax. We don't need a carbon capture pipeline. Our taxpayer money is being wasted to pay for these subsidies in the name of this global climate change agenda. And we will put an end to it and certainly not use eminent domain to do it. And so as your next president, I have said that I will stop any federal taxpayer subsidies from flowing to any company that's illegally using eminent domain. And that's why I've traveled this entire state pushing back against this. And that's why I'm asking for your vote. A vote for any other candidate. A vote for DeSantis, a vote for Haley, a vote for Trump, is a vote for that pipeline because they want those subsidies continuing. They want that crony capitalism continuing. They are in favor of eminent domain. I am not. And I'm the only candidate to say it. And so if that's what you agree with me on this issue and affects you right here at home, I'm asking for your vote tomorrow night. You could tell me right now that you're going to vote for me tomorrow night. Press 1. That tells me right now in real time that you're going to vote for me. That means a lot to me, and we will not stop until we get this job done. Thanks a lot for that question, and we won't stop on this issue until we've actually put it to an end.
That's right, to make Vivek Ramaswamy our next president. Hit the number 1 on your keypad to caucus for Vivek on Monday night. Let's go back to the calls now. We have Curtis. Curtis, you are on live with Vivek Ramaswamy. Curtis, what is your question for Vivek?
Hello, Vivek. I'm currently active duty military, and I just want to know what kind of things that you would try to get done for like veterans as they leave the military if you were to get elected.
Yeah, well, look, you deserve an answer to that question. A country that doesn't stand for its veterans is not a country, actually. And so we need to stand for our veterans much more firmly than we already are. And that's why I'm in this race, is to actually revive that missing national pride in our country. So I'm the only candidate, to my knowledge, at least, that's offered comprehensive veterans policy. Let me tell you what that is. This shouldn't be black or white or even a partisan issue. Veterans deserve to be taken care of, such that 40 veterans a day aren't committing suicide with PTSD or worse. Veterans deserve to make sure that they have their basic benefits taken care of. Here's how we make that happen. Some real changes at the VA. Any veteran who comes back from a combat role, I'm standing for paid 6-week decompression buffers in a third-party location before they're thrust back into civilian life. That brings down the rate of PTSD by about 80%. That's something we could easily be doing that we're not doing today. Veterans deserve privacy restrictions for the red flag laws that they're subject to right now. Those red flag laws are stopping many veterans from reporting their PTSD, which stops them from getting medical veterans care. Veterans should not have to drive 150 or 200 miles to the nearest VA center to get medical care. They should be able to get community-based medical care, and yes, the VA paying for it, because these are veterans who have served our country and deserve to get that medical care, not just at a VA building, but through the medical system if that's what's more convenient in a given case. And so I also believe that veterans' benefits should not be subject to federal taxation. Neither should active duty military compensation. And I want to treat our veterans like the shareholders of the VA, so that they're the ones determining how those bureaucrats at the top are hired and fired or paid. That should be up to our veterans at least having a say in the matter. And so those are basic policies I'm going to adopt to stand for our veterans. But the way we best stand for our active duty military is, first of all, don't adopt policies that are hostile to them. The woke indoctrination of our military coming from on high in the Pentagon, we're going to put an end to that. Clean house at the Pentagon. I'm actually also going to say that and I've committed to this, and I'm going to stick to this commitment, and I'm going to keep it. Anybody who lost their jobs in that military, for refusal to take the COVID-19 vaccine, should have their positions reinstated with full back pay times 1.5. That's what it means to stand for justice in this country. And then the number one thing I can promise the next generation of young men and women who serve is that we will not send you to go die in somebody else's war that did not advance our interests, the future Iraqs of the world. No, we've sent thousands of our sons and daughters to go die in those wars that didn't advance our interests. What I'm going to say is, as your next president, we're going to use our own military to protect our own homeland in this country. That's how we revive national pride, and that, too, is part of how we stand for our troops, is by doing what's right rather than to fight somebody else's border halfway around the world that doesn't advance our interests.
And please hit 1 on your phone right now to caucus for Vivek on Monday night. Our staff will touch base with you. Just hit the number 1 on your phone to caucus for Vivek. We're going back to the live lines now. We have Gary on the line. Gary has a question about the budget. Gary, you're on line with Vivek. Please ask Vivek your question.
My question is, do you support a balanced budget amendment?
You know what I support is, I do support it. I support a balanced budget amendment, but I also only make promises that I can keep. And a constitutional amendment has a very high bar before you're actually able to achieve that amendment in action. So I'm going to tell you what I'm going to do in the meantime. I'm going to, as the chief executive, bring zero-based budgeting to the budgeting process itself, where we're not going to start with last year's budget as the baseline. We're going to start with zero as the baseline and actually ask what's necessary. I think that's going to take a CEO to get that job done. That's how I've run my businesses. That's how I'm going to run this federal government, which deserves to be run with the rigor of a business. One of the things that I did when I ran my businesses, I would ask, and everybody at the company, the cultures we built, abided by this, is spend the company's money as if it was your own money. Imagine if our federal bureaucrats thought the same way. Yet they're not today. So that's what I'm going to put an end to, is slash 75% of that federal bureaucracy. That's going to actually be a big part of how we get to a balanced budget as well. But I will support the amendment for a balanced budget. Yes, that makes all the sense in the world. But that requires 75% of both chambers of Congress and 2/3 of the states. It's actually 3/4 of the states. So that's not something we're going to be able to easily achieve that I can promise you. The promises that I make you are the promises that I will keep. That I'm going to cut 75% of federal bureaucrats? Yes, I will. That I'm going to start with zero-based budgeting in our process? Yes, I will. And that's how we're going to be able to fight our national debt crisis in a quick and realistic way. And it's going to take somebody from the outside who is not bought and paid for as a businessman to get this done. That's what I'm bringing to this in a way that nobody else is. And that's why I'm asking for your vote tomorrow night. It's going to be cold, but I'm asking you all to come out to the Iowa caucus tomorrow night. The caucus is at 7 o'clock, but come a little bit early to your precinct site for sure to make sure you absolutely get in. And I'm asking you to caucus for me. And if you do that, that makes a big difference to me. If you press 1 right now, that tells me you're caucusing for me. If you press 1, we're going to tell you the information of exactly where you need to go, and we can help you with anything you need tomorrow night. But I'm asking every one of you on this call to not only come to the Iowa caucus and vote for me. I'm asking each of you to do one more thing in the next day, which is to tell 10 people what we're talking about right here on this Tele-Townhall right now. Tell 10 people who couldn't be in this conversation with us what we're talking about. And if you can, bring them to the Iowa caucus too. Every one of your voices and votes counts as the equivalent of 1 million people. Think about that. 1 million people. That's the impact it has in shaping who the next president of the United States is. And you all have a special responsibility and a special opportunity to shape who that next president is. I know so many of you take that seriously. That's why you're participating in this call now. My wife, Apurva, and I, this has been the blessing of a lifetime. My wife is a throat surgeon. She saves lives at the cancer hospital every day at Ohio State. But she is here doing this with me because this is about the life of our country. That's really what's at stake. And so I'm asking each of us to do our part. It's not going to be some president that comes from on high like a Messiah from the White House to save us. It's going to be because we save ourselves. That's how we will be saved in our body politic. But I'm going to do my part as the next president. I'm going to swear an oath to that Constitution and actually keep it for a change. And that's going to take somebody with fresh legs to reach and lead that new generation of Americans and to tell them honestly that you don't have a crippling $34 trillion national debt problem anymore, because hopefully we have a balanced budget amendment. I'm going to do everything I can to lead the way on that. But in the meantime, to bring, as your question asked, zero-based budgeting to Washington, D.C., that's how we will address the national debt crisis. And if I may say so, I am the presidential candidate in this race who has offered the clearest plan of how, not dancing around with words, but exactly how to overcome that national debt, and we will.
That's right, and you can help Vivek shock the world by showing up at the Iowa caucus. And if you're going to do so for Vivek, please hit 1 on your keypad right now. Hit the number 1. Going back to the live lines now, we have Julie on the line. Julie, you are on live with Vivek Ramaswamy. Julie, please ask Vivek your question.
Hi, Vivek. I have a question regarding your role, how you would implement welfare reform across this country, both at a national and at a state level. We're fighting at a time right now where it's very difficult to hire people when they are paid more to stay home than to go to work, both in red states and blue states alike.
So, Stefan, can you just repeat the end of that question for me? We lost the signal in the car, but I'm able to get most of that. Or, Stefan, yep, thank you. Oh, beautiful. Oh, I'm glad I didn't miss that one. So That's good. So welfare was the word she was using. That's what reform. Good. So we need work requirements. That's what we need. We need work requirements without apologizing for it. They said that it was racism or whatever it is when they tried to put that into the last debt ceiling negotiation bills. I'm not going to be scared off by that kind of name calling. We're going to do what we've done in the past in this country. You got to work to be able to get those benefits. Basic work requirements after a certain amount of time. That's not only better for our economy and our national debt, it's the more compassionate thing to do for even the people who are receiving those benefits. It's not compassion, it is cruelty. And so that's what we need in this country, is to make sure we don't fuel people's slavery. And I would go so far as to call it that. Slavery on a basis that we shouldn't apologize for when we say we fix this. People lose their sense of purpose and meaning when they're not going to work. People my age, my generation, I'm 38 years old. It's the first generation in our history where the majority of my generation is still dependent on parents for providing part of their income and their lifestyle. That's a formula for a nation in decline. You think you're doing well for yourself if you're in your parents' basement smoking pot, playing video games? No, is the answer to that question. And so one of the things that I stand for is work requirements codified into most forms of federal aid. We should stop paying people more money to stay at home instead of to go to work. Stop paying single mothers more money not to have a married man in the house than to have a married man in the house. Stop paying people more to not repay their student loans than to repay their student loans. So as your next president, if there's one thing I can tell you for how we're going to spend your money, our taxpayer money, we will stop paying people to do the exact opposite of what is best for them. And if that sounds good to you, then yes, I am going to ask you to caucus for me tomorrow night. That's what it's going to take for us to implement this. Come out, brave the cold. If you press 1 right now, you tell me that actually I know that you're caucusing for me. That makes me feel good, I have to admit that. But it's great to see those numbers go up. But more importantly than that, we're also going to be able to provide you the information of where you need to go. And I'm asking you all to do your part, and I promise you that my family and I, we're going to do ours to stand for those values my parents raised us in, which include hard work. I'm trying to embody that in this campaign. You talked about work requirements. I'm not going to apply a different standard to myself as the president. We're going to work hard for the people of this country. In this campaign, we have done over 390 events across the state. I'm talking to you on a car ride from one to another, doing events like this in between. We have done more events on the ground in Iowa than all of the other campaigns combined, actually. So if you think about that, that's hard work in this campaign. I'm grateful to my parents for instilling in me those values of hard work and commitment. My dad had a saying growing up. He said, well, instead of saying good luck, how do you spell luck? W-O-R-K. Hard work is one of those values this nation was founded on, and I'm not going to apologize for it as we revive that in this country.
Actually, speaking of that topic, we're going to Andrew next on the live line. Andrew, you're online with Vivek. Saw me. Andrew, please ask Vivek your question.
Hey, Vivek. Just curious, a lot of people are polarizing nowadays. Just wondering what your plan is to unite us as Americans when you get into office.
Yes. Now, that's the top challenge and top priority, I think, of the next president, is to reunite this country. So the first thing I want to share is some good news that I think I have seen traveling this country. And it starts, if you're going to fix any problem, you got to start with the truth. But in this case, the truth is actually a good thing, not a bad thing. I think that our nation is not nearly as divided as the media would have us believe. It's not nearly as divided as you would believe if you turn on those algorithmically powered social media algorithms. I think 80% of us in this country share the basic national values of the United States. The reality is that most of us share the ideals of free speech and open debate, that you get to speak your mind as long as I get to in return. Most of us believe in the shared ideals of meritocracy, that you do get ahead in this country, not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character. That we're a nation founded on the rule of law, that a nation should have borders, that we the people create a government that's accountable to us, not the other way around. That the people who we elect to run the government should be the ones who actually run the government, not unelected federal bureaucrats. Most of us agree on these values of hard work and commitment and dedication, that that's actually a good thing, that the American dream should exist in this country, that these ideals, imperfect as we've been as a nation, that we're still the greatest nation known to mankind. Most of us in this country agree on this. 80% of us do. And half the 20% are people younger than me who never learned those ideals in the first place. We're going to bring them along too. But it's going to take a president who stands for our national character, answers who we are. The last president we've had in this country who did that well was Ronald Reagan. And I respect him for it. But we haven't had a president we've held to that standard in a long time. And I think it's going to take somebody with fresh legs from the next generation, if I may say it, to reach and lead the new generation that has lost that sense of national unity and national pride. Today, 60% of young Americans say they would sooner give up their right to vote than to give up their access to TikTok, if you think about that. That's crazy. And I don't think that we should be standing by willing to accept that today in the country. That's why I said earlier, I believe that every high school senior who graduates from high school should have to pass the same civics test that every immigrant has to pass in order to become a voting citizen of this country. That's why I believe that we need a U.S. president that stands for our veterans. That's how we revive national pride. Part of the reason we have a 25% recruitment deficit in our U.S. military is that young people look and see, this is how you treat our veterans on the back end. Why on earth will I serve on the front end? That's what many young people are asking. And so I'm going to stand for those national values, standing for our veterans, standing for citizenship and the revival of civic education in this country, shutting down our Department of Education, which is foisting poison onto our kids, and instead putting that money in the pockets of parents who get to choose where they send their kids to school. These are not divisive ideas. They shouldn't be. These are unifying ideas. Even my proposal to secure elections in this country, which has generated so much controversy in the media, I think most Americans are united around it. And we're going to unite this country by implementing it. Single-day voting on Election Day as a national holiday with paper ballots, government-issued voter ID to match the voter file, and yes, English as the sole language that appears on a ballot. That's not too much to ask. That's not controversial to most Americans. That is common sense. Black or white, Democrat or even Republican. And so I think that a president who understands that we the people are indeed more united than the media would have us believe, it's probably going to be the presidential candidate who showed up at more pizza ranches than any presidential candidate in history. I think we've done more events on the ground than any presidential candidate in history, more than all of the other candidates combined. But I bring that up now because I can tell you from traveling this state and this country that I see patriots who love this country regardless of their identitarian affiliations. And so it's going to take a president who understands that, who has a chance to then reunite this country by embracing our founding creed of e pluribus unum, which means from many, one. That's what we've lost in this country. We've been taught anymore to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways that we're the same. We're taught to believe. We teach our kids in schools to believe that, you know what? We teach our kids to believe that our diversity is our strength. Our diversity is not our strength. Our strength is what unites us across that diversity. Think about it. Without that, we're really just a different looking group of two-legged higher mammals walking some geographic space that we call a country, doing what our iPhones told us to do on a given day. That's really not a country. I'm looking outside right here, looking at beautiful Iowa farmland covered in snow as we travel this country. As beautiful as this country is more than just a place. It is a vision of what that place can be. And I'm asking you to help revive that vision as well. And so do me a favor, do this country a favor, and come out and stand for that vision to reunite this nation, not by compromising on our principles, but by being uncompromising about who we are, about the First Amendment, about the Second Amendment, the one amendment that protects all of the other ones that we have failed to stand for in this country. The Constitution includes the First and Second Amendments for a reason. There were the amendments that protect all of the other ones, that you get to speak your mind openly and you have your Second Amendment rights and you can worship freely. This unites all of us as Americans. And so I will reunite this country, not by compromising on those principles, but by being uncompromising about the principles that unite us as Americans. That's how I'm going to take our America First movement to the next level. But I can't do it unless we win this, unless we do well in this Iowa caucus. I think we're going to win this Iowa caucus. But I need your help to do it. Take 30 minutes of your time. We're going to deliver a shock to the world. If you want to stick it to the mainstream media that's tried to count me out of this race, if you want to stick it to that establishment, the best way is to come vote for me at that Iowa caucus tomorrow night. Even if it's different than what you were thinking about doing 3 months ago or 3 days ago or even before this call. I'm asking you to do the right thing for this country. Do not fall for the trap they've laid for us. I told you before, I'll tell you again. This system, as disgusting as it is, they're not going to let Donald J. Trump get anywhere near that White House. We cannot walk into that trap. Our movement has to live on. To move on to the next level, that's why I'm in this race. Not to fall into the trap they've laid for us. I don't think a professional politician can get this job done. There are good governors in this race who can continue to be good governors or to serve this country in other ways. But I'm asking you to do the right thing for our country. This is going to take an outsider with fresh legs to reach and lead that next generation. That is why I'm in this race. Just as hard as we've worked in this campaign, that's how hard we're going to work for this country. But I'm asking you for your vote tomorrow night. Brave the cold. That's what I'm asking you for. It's no small sacrifice. And I know that I'm asking you to make that sacrifice tomorrow night, to take 30 minutes of your time to save this country. But if you do your part, we're going to do ours, and we're going to save this country. You can hit 1 right now that tells me in real time that you're going to caucus for me. But what I'm asking you most importantly is tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, come a little early, get there at 6:30, vote for me at this Iowa caucus, and we will do everything I promised that we're going to do on this call. The promises I've made are the promises that I will keep. And it's going to take somebody who isn't a politician, but a patriot and a businessman and somebody from the next generation with fresh legs to do it. Thomas Jefferson, he was 33 when he wrote that declaration. Well, you know what? These revolutions, these revivals, they're led by the next generation for a reason, and that's why I'm asking for your support.
And to support Vivek Ramaswamy, please just hit the number 1 on your phone. Hit the number 1 on your phone. Vivek, would you like to go to one more call?
Let's take one final call, and then we'll wrap this up. Absolutely.
All right. Sounds good. Next on the live line is Matthew. Matthew, you are on live with Vivek Ramaswamy. Matthew, please ask Vivek your question.
Hey, I just wanted to know, what do you think of legalizing concealed carry in all 50 states? Do you think that would help cut down on crime?
I actually do think when you stand for the Second Amendment, it does cut down on crime. Absolutely. I favor constitutional carry being the law of the land. And I said that at a speech I gave earlier this year, the NRA speech that I gave. I stand by it today because the Second Amendment is the one that protects all of the others. That's what we've lost in this country. China and Iran, they claim to offer the same freedoms we do, but they don't actually provide them to their citizens because they don't have a Second Amendment. So the reason I'm favoring the Second Amendment, and I always have, is not because I'm a hunter or a sports shooter. It's that I actually understand how the Constitution works. And without that Second Amendment, you don't enjoy your freedoms. Study our own history in this country. Black Americans did not enjoy their other freedoms after the Civil War until they got their Second Amendment freedoms. The first anti-gun laws that were passed were actually designed to keep guns out of the hands of Black Americans. That's wrong. It's disgusting. But it's part of why, even before the Civil War, the Dred Scott case, the Supreme Court said that Black Americans could not be citizens because if they were, that would allow them to own guns. So I said that to Don Lemon earlier in this race, the CNN host on stage. He lost his mind, completely went ballistic, and actually, literally, that was one of the things that contributed to his firing. But the reason I stand for the Second Amendment is it's the amendment that actually secures all of our other freedoms. It's like mutually assured destruction between a government and it overreaches on the rights of its citizens. And so we have to understand that. Now, how do we address violent crime in this country? Go to the root cause, the mental health epidemic. If somebody is psychiatrically ill and dangerous in their community, we should be able to have that person removed from their community sooner than removing guns from law-abiding citizens. That's actually the better way to do it. We closed our psychiatric hospitals in this country in part because of pharmaceutical industry lobbying. Well, you know what? We got to bring back those psychiatric institutions, fight that wave of mental health epidemic. And I have to say this is an emotional moment for me in this race. I was in Perry, Iowa on the morning of that disastrous school shooting. Something like that should never happen again in this country. We want to prevent that from happening and protect our children in our schools. What I've said is, as your next president, I've said this all along, We will not only shut down the Department of Education and return that money to the states to fund parents who deserve to choose where they send their kids to school, but we will also use that to help fund 3 armed security guards in every school across this country. That's how we protect our children. That's how we actually protect our most valuable national asset, our next generation of Americans. And I'll close on that because I speak to you not just as a presidential candidate, hopefully as your future president, but also as a father of 2 sons myself. And that's why Apurva and I are doing what we're doing. I promise you, it's not a convenient time in our life for us to be on this journey. I have built businesses. I was running a business last year. I built multi-billion-dollar businesses from scratch. The one I most recently built was a company called Strive that competes directly against BlackRock and State Street and Vanguard to restore who we are as a country by pushing back against this toxic ESG agenda. My wife is a throat surgeon at Ohio State where she's saving the lives of cancer survivors every day. We're raising 2 sons. One of them is nearly 4 years old. Another of them who's actually going to be a year and a half old, or just past a year and a half old this month. We're doing this for them and their generation. It's our duty to them and to this country. I used to say to create the same country that we grew up in, but I'm not going to say it that way anymore. I believe we still can create a country greater than the one we grew up in. So I'm not going to be the person who artificially tells you that it's morning in America right now, because it is not. But it can be. I won't tell you the American dream is alive and well right now. It is not. It is alive and hanging on for life support, but it can be. But we all have to do our part to get there. Apurva and I, we will do ours. We will stop at nothing. And we're asking of you one thing we need from you to do that. Tomorrow night, I'm asking you to come out to that caucus and vote for me. I'm asking you to vote for me, even if that's different than what you were thinking 3 months or 6 months or even a few days ago. Keeping your mind open to who's the only person able to actually tell you the truth on the hard things, not the easy things that the other candidates agree with, but on the hard things, that I will strip vaccine liability exemptions from every vaccine manufacturer, because where there has been injury, there needs to be justice. The only person in this race who can tell you I'm against that CO2 pipeline using eminent domain to seize the land of innocent farmers, that it's based on a climate change agenda that is a hoax, that I'm opposed to these things. The only candidate who can tell you that, you know what, I will pardon every peaceful January 6th protester on my first day in office because it's the right thing to do for this country. I'm the only candidate who can tell you these things because I don't report to the donor class. My biggest donor is me. I don't report to them. I report to you, the citizens of this country. And tomorrow night, if you want to put into the White House finally a candidate who speaks truth to power, who actually gets in there and shuts down the deep state this time, instead not just talking about it and exposing the problem, and that's important. And I give my predecessors and others credit for doing that. But if you actually want to shut it down this time, I'm the only candidate who can do it. That's why I'm asking you for your vote tomorrow night at the Iowa caucus. And if you do your part, we're going to do ours to make sure that our best days, not in some cheesy politician way, but in a true way, to make sure that our best days are actually still ahead of us. So thank you all for joining us today. May God bless you and your families, and may God bless our United States of America such that our best days, yes, still be ahead of us. Thank you.